Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kai, and in today's video we'll be discussing why chess is not like life. And this is coming from someone who was rated 2260 in Bullet, someone who has played over 10,000 games in chess, someone who has played competitive chess since 6th grade. So I think I have quite a lot to say on this topic, and although I have benefited a lot from chess, I have adopted chess' systematic way of thinking, of weighing pros and cons, of thinking decisions in trees and pruning bad decisions and pruning bad variations and adopting this very systematic way of approaching life. I've also realized that there's a lot of shortcomings that comes with the chess metaphor for life. So yeah, let's get into things. I understand that this might be a sensitive topic for you, especially if you're very passionate about chess, you love the game, you realize that the game has helped you become a lot sharper, become a lot smarter with your life's decisions. But you have to recognize that chess is just a game in the end. It's just a game. And I used to boast a lot, like saying, hey, I approach life like it's chess and it's such a good thing and it's such a good thing. But no, chess does not account for randomness and probability that you see in life. It doesn't account for, having uneven starting positions. It doesn't account for like the objective of the game. There's no objective in life. There's no way to win in life. What does winning in life mean? No one knows that. There's also many players in life. And how do you account for that? Also, there's no room for innovation in chess. Chess is a fixed game with fixed rules, and it has been like this for the past centuries. For many, many centuries, it has been the same exact game, but life is always evolving. In life, people evolve. People develop new traits, develop new things, and there's a whole thing of innovation, There's new pieces in the game, as you would say. So yeah, let's just do a deep dive on this. I'm just going to ramble this off the top of my head, but hopefully it comes off concise, clear-minded, and thoughtful. Let's get it. So, chess, you start off with 16 pieces. Your opponent starts off with 16 pieces, and you guys are battling back and forth. You start from a very even game with about a 0.2 edge for white, and the way that you win is determined by your decision making, your ability to recognize opportunities, and your ability to capitalize on these opportunities. But in life, people start off in completely different positions, and the board game of life is so uneven for different people. If you were born in America, you have such a big advantage compared to someone born in a third world developing country, because your passport is stronger, you're able to travel anywhere. You probably have better access to education. Your parents are likely more healthy. You have health insurance. There's so many different just like advantages that you just get born with, right? The hospital that you're born with has healthcare, and you have a higher chance of surviving. Your mom has a higher chance of surviving the pregnancy. That's your early starting position. You're so good. But in other countries, you might not even be born in a hospital. You might be born malnourished. You might be born with so many health complications that cannot be resolved. And the more that I live life, the more that I travel, the more that I go out to different countries like Nepal, you recognize that where you're born and what your parents do and what the society and community around you do, that impacts so much of your life right from the onset. So that is, for me, I think that's been a big, humbling experience. I'm very grateful to be born the way that I am and to have no health complications, to be able to travel and to have a US passport. I'm so grateful for this. I also will say that chess is a very deterministic game. There are objectively good moves in the game, and the computer has evaluated this, but in life, there's no clear objective way of evaluating decisions, right? And what I mean by that is, if I wake up at 9 a.m. versus 3 p.m., like, I don't know which is the better objective decision, because things happen in life that are not in your control, and you don't have information on these events, right? Who knows if going to this university or going to that university, like, you don't know which is the better objective decision. You also don't know which job is objectively better. If you're only equating a job to your compensation, maybe immediately you know which one is the better decision, but you're not factoring in your costs, you're not factoring in stock compensation, your ability to keep that job. There's so many variables in life that you cannot equate to or compute the cost of. You cannot easily compute your opportunity cost of a decision. But in chess, you understand that, okay, if I make this move, I'm giving up this board, I'm giving up this advantage. Like, it's very tangible, and the computer helps you really recognize what you're losing in exchange for what you're gaining. Like, you know exactly what you're gaining. But in life, due to random chance, probability, factors outside your control, you cannot determine if you're going to win in life. That also brings me to my third point of, in chess, there's a clear objective. That is to win the game, put your opponent in checkmate, or at least go for a draw. And you know when you lose. Losing in life is when you lose the game. You lose your king. But in life, there's no objective way of winning or losing. And you might disagree with me on this. Maybe life should be about attaining enlightenment. It should have a religious context of going into the afterlife and being judged by God and being accepted into heaven. It might also be simply to have kids and to pass on your genes. Or it could be living a fulfilling life where you're able to balance your hobbies, your friends and family, and your job, and you live in harmony with the people around you. Or it could be saving the world, activism. But that's all subjective. There's no objective way to live life. Like, what does it mean to live life? I was born in this world, and the ways of winning in life for me is to make money and to be rich and to pass on my genes and to do cool shit. But that's honestly been passed down to me by my parents, by society, by societal expectations. There's no clear way of living life. And you observe that no one in the history of the world, no one in life has realized this. The only universal truth, I'd say, to life is what Rene Descartes said about, I think, therefore I am. The only universal truth is that you exist. But other than that, you can't tangibly say what else is out there and what there is to do. That might have been a big, big ramble, but yeah, like, you don't know how to win in life. Also, in life, what is loss? Like, what does it mean to lose in life? Is it when you die, like you lose the game? In that case, in every single game of life, you're bound to lose because you're going to die. So I think dying is not a good case of, I don't think dying is a good example of what loss is. You know, who knows what losing is? Is losing not being able to pass on your genes? Is losing being homeless or being not respected by people? There's no way to measure what loss and wins are in life. I also think that because life is so complex with so many different players, it's a much harder game to map out compared to chess. Because chess, it's always about you versus your opponent. And it's only one singular opponent. And the game is a zero-sum game, right? You either win, lose, or draw, and your opponent takes the opposite end of that outcome. But in life, when you're coming up with decisions, let's say you're working at a company and you want to make this big executive decision and you're competing with other people in the market. Sometimes you make business decisions that yield shareholder value for both companies. Sometimes you destroy value, you destroy your own company's value, and you tank the entire industry, or you go down, your opponent goes up, or you go up and your opponent goes down. But this like way of like value creation or value destruction, it's not a zero-sum game. In poker, that's a negative sum game because there's the casino rake. The house takes a rake off of the earnings, right? In chess tournaments, it's also a negative sum game. But in life, I would argue that it's a positive sum game more so, because if you're only observing what happens in the earth, more and more stuff is added to the earth. Just, by definition, the sun emits energy from the sun to earth. There's photosynthesis. There's a bunch of stuff being grown. The earth is getting more and more valuable when it comes to like energy stored. At least this is from my own opinion. Okay, now this was a very long tangent, but yeah, like life is not a zero-sum game. I want to digress from all that tangent stuff that I just went through. But also, I like to say that chess does not equate for random chance or probability. In life, opportunities just come up. You meet a certain friend, something falls out of the sky and it lands in your lap and you're blessed with an opportunity, or something happens like an accident and that detracts from your life. A loved one passes away unexpectedly. Chess does not equate for random chance. And it doesn't equate for opening yourself up to opportunity. I'd say in chess, you're able to find positions where you're winning and you can make better winning moves later down the line. But in life, you don't know what positions you're putting yourself in that would yield this opportunity. And I like to give the example of people going to investment banking. A lot of people go into investment banking because they don't know what else they want to do in life. So they go do their 2 years. And after their 2 years, they think that they'll be exposed to more opportunity, which they are. I mean, they'll be exposed to private equity, hedge fund, other banking opportunities out there, as well as CFO roles, startup roles, roles that require this previous finance experience. And okay, that's cool and all, but you don't know, you can't entirely base, you don't know that for sure. What if you went to a different location, went for a different job route, and that puts you in an environment where you get a lot of opportunity, a lot of random chance that occurs, and you're able to capture all this luck. There's definitely that pathway in life. And I think that many people are either too risk averse to take this decision or too blinded to know that you can veer off of this path in life and create your own opportunities for yourself. One example of that in my life is when I went to Nepal to pursue adventure photography, and I did this after college. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who I was going to meet in Nepal, but I was able to meet many different people and make many lifelong connections and lifelong friendships. And I was able to capture this new unknown area for myself, capture all the luck and convert it into tangible value or tangible relationships, you would say, and have lots and lots of fun. But if you compare that to the person who has gone through the traditional banking experience or the traditional pre-med to medical school to residency experience, yes, you're exposing yourself to more opportunities through this pathway, and you know the clear continuation in this variation of life, but you're kind of closing yourself off to all the opportunities that exist outside of this very narrow path in life. And I like to see this more, let's say, free way of thinking, this more open way of living life philosophy, I like to see that being more adopted by people, you know? I think I've always grown up thinking that being a doctor was the best way to live life, you know? It's the way to make money, it's the way to produce value and to do good things. But in reality, it's not. You don't know if being a doctor is the way to win life. You don't know if becoming a banker is the way to win life. There's no clear-cut way to win in life, as well as you don't know if that path is guaranteed for you. Yes, you can work really hard, but there is a non-zero chance that you're going to get struck by lightning or you're going to get hit by a car going into an accident, and things will happen completely drastically from how you envisioned it. And I don't think many people account for black swan events or chance or like 2 sigma, 5 sigma events that occur in their life. In a way, it's like you can die at any time, and if you've grinded for the certain path in life, was it really worth it? Because things can happen, things can change. The probability of bad things occurring is non-zero, as well as the probability of good things are happening are non-zero. But why would you stick to a very defined way of living life? You're just closing yourself off to so much opportunity. At least that's how I think about it. I think this was a really long tangent, but I hope that through you listening to me, you understand how chess is not like life. It doesn't equate for the randomness. It doesn't equate for probability. It doesn't equate for the starting positions in life. It doesn't equate for the objective way to win in life. And these are some of my ideas on how chess is honestly not a good metaphor at all for life. So, yeah, I appreciate you listening to me rant and talk. But if you do enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing. Yeah, peace.